Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey, good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide, and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Brian+Post. Hope everyone's doing fantastic today. Coming to you from Starbucks in Crescent City, California. It's kind of windy out, and I'm not sure I would get very good signal if I went out there, so I'm just going to pop on here inside of Starbucks and hopefully not disturb too many people. I've got a meeting coming up here in just a little bit, so want to go ahead and chime on here really quick and answer a couple questions that had came in. The first one came from Cindy. It says, I have a foster child I've had for a little over a month. When he gets stressed, he takes off. He does not go far, around a few block radius, but when we are traveling or going somewhere, it gets very frustrating and unsafe. He is 9, second time in care. I can help him calm down if he stays around, but how can I help him when he takes off, or what can I do? Hey there, Post, and I hope you guys heard that. Sounds like they're making a cappuccino or something over there. So here's the thing, Cindy. Number one, you want to work on prevention. You want to figure out what are the things that are going on with your little 9-year-old that make him want to run off. And when he runs off, it's because he doesn't feel safe. He's regressing to about a 2-year-old. And he's probably coming from an environment of pretty serious neglect, and so he doesn't really feel like anyone can keep him safe in that moment. So try to think about and investigate what are the things that actually make him run off, and before you go to a new place, just say to him, hey buddy, if you start feeling really stressed, you start feeling really scared, or you get mad at me, here's what you can do. Because when you run away, it really scares me. And so I'd really like to try to make sure that you stay safe. So here's something that you can do in an alternative. And give him some freedom, give him some opportunity to have some flexibility. He's running away because if you think about the brain fight, flight, or freeze, he's going into flight. And flight is a way that he can keep himself safe. So give them a little bit of leeway, give them a little bit of flexibility. Remember, foster and adopted children need a modicum of control because control gives them the ability to feel safe. And without that ability to feel safe, without that modicum of control, it's just going to create more threat. Now, number 2 thing you can do, Cindy, is when he's ran away and you know that 9 times out of 10 he knows how to get back. He's not going to be in harm's way. So if he takes off, let him go. When he comes back, celebrate his return. Give him a big hug. Tell him how much you missed him. Tell him how glad you are that he's safe. And that you always want to be a place where he can feel safe with you and feel loved and supported. And you know that sometimes he gets scared and doesn't know what else to do except to run away. And then just leave it alone. Don't mention another thing after that. Make it a nice, relaxed evening. And don't get into any kind of conversations or discussions. Just leave it alone. The celebration is the key. So that's the second thing I'd really encourage you to consider and to look into. So then we had one more. Came from Ann, and this one was this question is for Brian. Adopted 17-year-old with trauma history, trauma stuff. How do I avoid a power struggle that is escalating each morning with him getting to work one time for his summer job? Almost went really far south this morning. Thanks. What do I say or do? And he says stuff like, I'm not a little kid, don't worry about me, etc. Okay, so here's the thing, Ann. Number 1, he's not a little kid. He's 17 years old. So you're trying to teach him some responsibility, I assume, but you have a lot of anxiety about whether he's going to get to work on time. And so you're probably rushing his schedule before he's ready. Here's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. Let him fail. So the first thing you need to do is let him fail. Set him up for success. Make sure he's got an alarm clock. Let him know the night before you're not going to wake him up. You know he's 17 years old. You know he can make his own decisions. And you trust that he can make his own decisions. So make sure he has an alarm clock. Make sure it's set. And then leave it alone. And then wait. And if he oversleeps, that's okay. If he gets up and goes to work, that's fantastic too. If he oversleeps, don't say anything about it. Don't mention it. Act like you didn't know anything that was going on. And that's going to be one opportunity for him to have a lesson of natural consequences. When he is able to, and you guys don't hear me talk about this very often because I always say natural consequences are just that, they're natural. So if you make sure you help him get an alarm clock, you make sure the alarm clock's set, and then you leave it at that, then if he oversleeps, that's a natural consequence. There's nothing that you can do about that. You're not creating it, you're not preventing it, you're just allowing it to happen. So the significance of a natural consequence versus the way we're typically taught consequences is that most consequences that parents are taught when they're taught love and logic and stuff like that, those are parent formulated consequences which actually become threatening in nature, and they also become very shaming and very blaming. A natural consequence just happens. You can't prevent it, you can't avoid it, and the significance is when it happens there's no one to blame except the individual who's involved. And so when he has no one to blame except himself, it's an opportunity for him to learn. Sometimes it can be a painful lesson, but it's a lesson that you need to allow him to have. Because number three, he is 17 years old. You have to trust what you've helped him to achieve at this point in time and give him the flexibility to succeed or to fail. It's, and to realize that the relationship is the most important thing. So whether he succeeds or whether he fails, it doesn't change anything because the relationship is always intact. The relationship is always gosh, I had a word. It's always intact, and it is, the word went right out of my head. So the relationship's always going to be in place. Oh, it's always supportive. That's the thing. Whether you pass or fail, the relationship is always supportive, and that's the main thing. So if he misses work for a day, just ask him the next day, hey buddy, or that evening. I wouldn't mention it that morning. If he happens to get up late, I wouldn't mention it that morning, but that night you say, hey, do you want me to help you out in the morning, or you got it covered? Because I know you're capable, because you're 17 and I know you can make adult decisions, but I just want to check in with you and see where you're at. And you have to trust your raising at this point. You have to trust the child. You have to have faith. And you have to give them the opportunity to mess up. How many of us as young kids had jobs that we messed up on? I remember one of my first jobs, wasn't one of my first ones because I started out working really early. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I used to chop cotton during the summers. Well, one summer, me and my Uncle Tony went out to chop cotton, and he said that we needed to take a break, and it was best that we take our boots off and get under the shade and prop our feet up, and we didn't want to get blisters. And so my mom and dad had never done that, but I thought, okay, well, he's the adult, so he must know, what to do. So he and I took our boots off out there in the field. It was the middle of the afternoon, and got up under a shade tree. And it was about an hour later, and my mom drove out and said, you guys need to get on back to the house. We said, what happened? Well, the boss man drove through here and saw you guys relaxing under a shade tree, so he said to come get his boys. So we got fired. So that was a very painful lesson, and that was an adult who was helping me with that, and I remember that ever since. That was about when I was 11 years old. So give them an opportunity to fail, pray for success, and if they whether they succeed or fail, remember the relationship is always the single most important thing. And with 17-year-olds, you gotta give them an opportunity to practice their early adulthood. And I think you're always going to be erring on the safe side when you do that. So I hope that helps, guys. I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. I'll be sure to check in with you again tomorrow. Remember, in any given situation, we always have two choices. We can continue to react from our same blueprints and imprints of stress, fear, and overwhelm, or we can stop. We can take 3 to 10 deep breaths, and we can choose love. I hope you choose love, and I hope this little episode's been helpful. I may actually stream some tonight. It's going to be a meeting with adopted parents. We're going to be talking about Post wraparound adoption services here in Crescent City. So be on the lookout. That may be coming here in just a little bit. Okay. God bless. Big Papa loves you. We'll talk to you soon.